Hello, my name is Jeremy Bramwell, and welcome to Why Strata Should Order Depreciation Reports Early. Just some basic statistics here. There's about 35,000 stratas, of which 18,000 are exempt, meaning about 17,000 need depreciation reports. About 20% or 3,400 have them, which means that 13,600 are required. Now, depreciation reports are done over various pieces of time. We get a contract, we ask for information, we review the information, we get ready for the site inspection, we go to the site inspection, we do that, we send out a draft copy of the report, we have our draft meeting. Essentially, it does take about 3/4 of a week to do a typical size strata depreciation report. I mean, it can be longer if it's a big complex, or as short as a day if it's just a very small bare land. But the average person is 0.75 reports per week, which means that the average person can do 60 to 70 reports on an annual basis. Right now, there is 5 to 10 full-time people, and probably closer to 5 as of April, doing reports in British Columbia, where the government deadlines are going to require that there be well over 100. So I just want people to understand something, that most depreciation reports in British Columbia are done by providers who work part-time. There's, for appraisers, they'll do some commercial appraisals and they'll do some depreciation reports. Engineers, same thing, and on and on. So there are only very few people. One of them worked for me in Victoria. I know there's another guy, John, who works in the Okanagan, but elsewhere around the province, very, very few people who work full-time right now in the industry. So in order to meet the government's deadlines, this is essentially what we're hypothetically looking at. To go from about 8 reports, or about 300 reports in the Lower Mainland right now, and then kind of bump it up to about 600 or 700 in 2024 as people get used to the legislation. At 25, we're up to 5,000, and then we're up to 62, 6,300 the next year in the Lower Mainland. Then we drop back down to a few hundred, and then a few hundred the next year, and then we go up again. And in the elsewhere in British Columbia, where we assume that there's only about only about a third that's in the Lower Mainland, again, we're going up there. It's really unrealistic. This is what most depreciation providers actually think, what's going to happen. We're going to ease out the number of reports based on our capacity. Both projections are based on the fact that the 6 identified qualified persons categories are located in the Lower Mainland and the Capital Region. These projections assume that the providers will serve in their local areas first, and after the 2026 deadline, rush to the Okanagan and elsewhere to fill up in the gaps of reports required. That is, unless they're like us and have offices actually in the Okanagan. So this is really a comparison of the two types. You're going to have, so this is full-time employment. The blue represents what the government thinks we should be able to do based on the number of reports. As you can see, we'd have to go from around 16 up to 106 employees to 133 employees the next year, then come down to the mid-60s and drop back down to 8 and 16, and then go right back up again. Where realistically we're going to get between 50 and 60 employees, and then we're going to kind of temper out at that. Even at that, that's a 700% to 800% increase in the amount of people doing the work on a full-time basis. it's much more realistic because it takes a long time to train someone and get them up to the task. Now, the impacts for strata councils and owners are that credit unions are going to require reports for mortgages as they are provincially regulated. Expect when the reports become mandatory in your area. 25% of mortgages are reported with credit unions, so one can expect 25% of a complex will need the depreciation reports for financing. As I believe that 50 to 55% will actually meet the deadlines in the Lower Mainland Capital Region and less than 35% elsewhere in BC, this is going to be a real problem with refinancing and selling. Most depreciation reports, to be truthful, are currently done by professional engineers. But given the complexes they complete are mid to high rises, and they don't usually do wood frame, townhomes, bareland, or industrial strata, this is really to be expected. There's not enough engineers or the students, engineers in training, to meet the full-time employment requirements. So property managers and councils will have to rely on others listed in the qualified list. Now, about those other providers. An architect or a quantity surveyor, I've never seen a report done by them. Most CRPs are actually members of the Appraisal Institute. And there's a question if residential appraisers, who are also CRPs, will be allowed by the Institute, the Appraisal Institute, to do the reports without an ACI cosigning. There's a rule in CUSPAP, the Canadian Uniform Standards of Professional Appraisal Practice, that says if you have two designations, if you're a member of the Institute and have another designation outside the Institute, that you would not be allowed as a member of the Institute to do something. You cannot rely on that outside designation. So anybody who's a CRA is going to have to be co-signed by an AACI. Now, even though the designation deadline is sometime away, but it's coming up soon, some may want to get a provider who's not on the list before the deadline. Really, not a good idea, because who wants to tell owners that the provider will be not qualified the next year? We're going to see this in the future. Stratas will start treating depreciation reports like insurance appraisals. You order them at the AGM in year 4, so they'll be ready for the budget process in year 5. If owners wait to order them until 2026, they will get them in 2027 or 2028, which may upset the financing and the ability to resell the property. The council has responsibility for selection of the providers. Don't rely on your property managers. New entrants are flooding into the market. Many providers, including engineers, CRPs, and ACIs, come from various backgrounds and receive their designation before the current, more rigorous entrance regulations. Now, it is their professional responsibility to keep up to date and to be qualified to do your type of property. But it is up to the Strata Council, through reviews of sample reports and testimonials, to determine if the provincial provider meets their needs. So there's some conclusions that not everybody's going to like. Not everyone will get a depreciation report by the deadline. If owners wait to order them to the last 6 to 9 months before the deadline, owners' financing or ability to sell units will be impacted. Stratas will have to use providers other than engineers if not in a high-rise. Councils will have to have more of an understanding of the provider's history in the business, as well as the provider's construction, legal, and financial knowledge. And finally, Stratas will have to order them at the AGM in year 4, so they're ready for the budget process in year 5. This is the end of this seminar. If you'd like to contact us at Strata Reserve Planning, please feel free to call us at any of our offices or send us an email to clientcare@stratareserveplanning.com. If you'd like to see more of our videos, please go and like us or subscribe at our YouTube channel at Reserve Planning. Thank you very much and have a good day.